In the last episode of my Vietnam trip 2022, we had just done my first reenactment in Vietnam with my good friends SDMI. I invited them up to the classic hotel Caravel to celebrate our first international collaboration.
Wow, what a great view! Where are we?
Caravel Hotel.
Caravel Hotel, and yeah, there is the church.
Heavy shelling at the airport destroys planes on the ground, and American Marines are killed by rocket fire. Journalists filming the action from the roof of their hotel see a South Vietnamese helicopter shot down near the grounds of the presidential palace.
Caravel was a famous spot for journalists during the war, so I thought it was a suiting place to celebrate that. And it even does an appearance in the new Vietnam War movie, The Greatest Beer Run Ever.
Woman, please be gone. You stayed here much too long.
And just outside of the hotel we can see traces of history. Here's a Viet Cong soldier resting outside of the opera in 1975. And across the street we see the Lam Son Square, where the old RVN statue once stood. During the war it was a 10-story hotel with the hotel bar being the highest point. But today it has 24 floors. And I had the pleasure to stay at the 20th floor with an amazing view over the city.
Pretty fancy. Here's the view.
Right, amazing view.
I tasted hate streets hanging trees. I tasted hate streets hanging trees.
After this it was time to jump to the next city and fly to Hue, the old Imperial City. I haven't been here since 2018 and was greeted by a warm welcome at one of the citadels, as its walls was newly dug up during construction, and this is a golden opportunity to find traces of wartime history.
Riders on the storm. Into this house we're born.
As you can see, here is one of the citadels, very beautiful. But if we look over here, there's some construction going on. As you can see, they're fixing beneath the walls, and that is always a good sign for us who likes history and war travel. As I've learned from my last trip in 2018 when we visited different places, we found many things, Kevlar plates from M55 vests, old ammunition and more very, very cool finds, old RVN shoes, for example. So when it looks like this is extremely good. It's like heaven for us who collect. So let's see if I can find something. Oh wow, a duck hunter hat. Wow, I always wanted one of those. What a great day. Yeah. Well, jokes aside, I just hit the jackpot. It's an old 556 M16 ammo, I think, with the primer still intact, but the bullet has left. But very cool thing, and as I said, every time they dig up, a lot of cool things come. Always be careful for bombs. I don't think there's too many bombs here, but that can always be an issue. Det är lite farligt.
Jo, jo, typ jätte.
Back up lite. So be very careful if you don't know what you're doing and have a guide with you. But yeah, very good start in Hue. Here you can see an ammo can. It's not uncommon thing to see. They still reuse things from the war. here's a pretty cool thing. A little detail from the war. This is from the bases. Very classic structural piece that's been cut down and still being used today here in Kuwait. Very creative. So yeah, now I am in Kuwait and I'm doing a tour with Vu, who is an expert in this area. I am just a rookie still. But I will do my best and he will learn me as I go. I might be a little tired. I only slept like 3 hours. 2 days ago I was bitten by a monkey. Well, as you saw in the last episode, there were plenty of aggressive monkeys. One of the rabies monkeys bit me unprovoked in the back of the knee. But what I didn't know is that once you feel the symptoms of rabies, there is no point of return. There is no cure, but a 100% certain death waiting for you to turn rabies zombie yourself. So what you need to do is to get an anti-rabies shot as fast as you can before you feel any of the symptoms in order to save yourself. So after I learned that, thanks to my good friend Jonas, aka Vietnam War Travel, I felt a good old death anxiety and started to search for a hospital. But only to be laughed at and sent back to my hotel room a couple of times before I finally got my shot. I really had to stand my ground there. But which Mykke, I hope I pronounce his name right, he's a trained Leo and paramedic. He told me it was a tetanus shot that I was being given and not the rabies shot. So here I am about 24 hours in of no sleep and stress, trying to sort this mess out all over again. Feeling the death anxiety even more and getting paranoid of feeling the symptoms of rabies. But this time around I got my friend Vu of Annam Tour to translate for me. Turns out rabies is not called rabies in Vietnamese, but I hope I pronounced this right. Ben Dai. And the former doctors thought I said rabbits all along. Well, at last I got my first out of 5 shots in total, and the death anxiety finally left my body. So with that being said, this whole episode is recorded just after this with pretty much no sleep, so I might be off at times, but I hope you enjoy this episode anyway. And now back to some historical locations with Vu. So where are we now?
Now we are standing on the last zone 14. It used to be the runway of the Taylor Airfield. And in the Battle of 1968, this is one of the three targets that the VC could not capture. Together with the Manka garrison, the headquarters of the 1st Infantry Division of the Army, and the Mark V compound on the other side of the Perfume River. And the Taylor Airfield was bravely defended by one platoon of the Arvin Reconnaissance Company Black Panthers. Now it's a street right now, and next to it is a monument for the 6th Regiment of the North Vietnamese Army. And behind it we'll see the original air control tower.
Yeah, and this is all inside of the Citadel.
Yeah,
which
right
is kind of
Citadel.
impressive. It's a very small airfield for small scout planes.
Yeah, for the dog birds, for the landing for the small aerial reconnaissance plane.
Yeah. And here we have the airfield control tower still standing. As you can see, it's badly beaten up, but interesting pieces of history. And this is right next to here. So what happened here, Vu?
So this Dongba Tower, it is where one of the bloodiest action of butterfly took place on the 14th or 15th of February 1968. D Company of the 2 Marines moved along the wharf from Manka Garrison, which is a few hundred meters away, and made contact with the enemy right on this tower, which resulted in a 2-day fierce fighting.
Casualties are heavy in the house-to-house fighting, and the enemy resistance is stiff. After the first day, Marines own just 2 blocks of the city. 2 blocks. And the price is dear.
So the most of pictures was taken from the other side. The Marine was on the other side of the moat. They took the Marines for 2 days to take the tower, the Dongba Tower, but they had to pay a very expensive price. 6 were killed in action, and another 50 were wounded. And after taking this one, they took control the tower, which provided them a very good observation over the citadel. Now the upper tower now is newly renovated. But back then it was gone. That's it. Now we are standing at the University of Hue. Luckily it remains standing during the battle. There was lots of fightings around this building. The architecture of this structure is Ngo Viet Thu, the most famous and talented architect of Vietnam, who also the architecture of the former Saigon presidential palace. Now it remains standing still. Education University of Hue now. Very cool, right?
Yeah.
Because with this architecture, when feel the breeze blowing up from the nearby Perfume River, and also has like a screen to prevent the sunlight, providing good shade in the summer. During the Battle of Tet Offensive 1968, the bridge, the northern half of the bridge was blown up by the VC on the 8th day of the 24-day Battle of Hue to stop the Marines from reinforcing the oven on the in the old city. Yeah? On the 1st of February 1968, when the 1-1 Marines arrived in Hue, and after securing the Mafia compound, one company tried to cross the bridge to reinforce the oven in the Citadel. And the Marine tried to bring some M48 tanks across the bridge, but the oven refused to go because they said that the M48 was too heavy for the bridge to handle the heavy M48 tanks. So the Marine had to cross the bridge on foot, and lost several Marines from 1-1 Marine was killed by a VC heavy machine gun on the other side of the bridge. And one of the Marines, he ran forward and threw a hand grenade and silenced the VC machine gun, and then the whole Marines company crossed the bridge, and then they turned left and moved along the wall of the Citadel, where you found the bullet case yesterday.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting. So here we see the Citadel. It's the entrance to the Imperial City. So this is a outer wall protecting the inner city.
10 kilometers long, and the second wall is a 2.4 kilometer,
Yeah.
which is called Imperial Citadel, which was a reserve for the royal court only. And the third wall is 1.2 kilometer. There are 3 layers of wall, right? The outer one, the second and third one is called a Forbidden Purple City. The third one, only 1.2 kilometer, which was a reserve for the emperor only. So the kings. So in the third wall, in the Forbidden Purple City, the king or the emperor is the most good-looking guy in there. There's no any other guys. Only the only emperors and concubines and eunuchs, ladies. When I was a kid, in the 80s, I often came to the spot like this to look for scrap metals, which bomb or shell shrapnels and bronze bullet cases, to sell them as scrap metals to buy sweet candy.
It was a good way to earn a quick buck. Reuse the metals.
So during the Battle of 1968, the city of Hue was very badly damaged, and there was not as fierce fighting here as in the southern, as house-to-house fighting in the southern city, but the citadel was very heavily shelled by the U.S. and the Alvan artilleries and tanks, because the VC was so solidly entrenched inside the citadel. Even though the Alvan 1st Infantry Division General Jung did not allow to fire on the citadel, but many of the structures were damaged by the artillery fire. And you see the foundation in front of us was gone. It was flattened by.
So much of it has been rebuilt since,
Yeah.
and renovated.
Yeah, most of the structure we see, like the new building over there, like private theater, is totally newly built, renovated, and the covered corridor over there is also newly built. And Mandarin Hall is newly built. Even theater there is newly renovated as well.
But this one is a original wall, right?
You see the bullet holes.
Yeah. So here we have an old abandoned hospital that was in use during the war, but now it's abandoned. But pretty cool architecture from the French during the Indochina.
It was once the Red Cross headquarters when we had it is the Jung High School.
Yeah.
And there was lots of fighting here between the two Marines and the VC.
Yeah.
You know, like the post office, the treasury building, the VC and the NVA heat inside the buildings along this Pentoven Street. And then they were, cleared off by the two Marines.
Yeah, so there was a lot of fighting from house to house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Along this Pentoven Street. Because the VC and the NVA tried to, the major target of the VC and NVA was the Nazi compound. But then the two Marines cleaned them off, and there are lots of house-to-house fightings along this Pentoven Street. Like the Red Cross headquarters on the right-hand side, the high school, the French-built high school called the Jung
Yeah.
like that, and then and the next block is the Lele Elementary School. And the post office to the right, and the treasury building 2 blocks away.
So here's the post office that a lot of the fighting took place. It was a stronghold of the VC.
Yeah, and one of my clients who was a former Marine, he said when his helicopter was landing right in front of the post office.
Wow.
Yeah, he received lots of small arm fire from the VC hiding from this school and the buildings around here. From
Wow.
the treasury building when his helicopter is landing in front of the post office.
Gotta be intense.
Yeah.
Now we are at Street Without Joy, just outside of Hue, a place that got its name during the First Indochina War by the French, when the Viet Minhs used to fortify it. It's a stretch of Route 1, which ran off the central coast of Vietnam from Hue north to Quang Tri. But it's also a place where my friend and Vietnam War veteran Michael Morell served as a platoon leader in the 1st Air Cav, here between May and October 1968. And as some of you might remember, I've interviewed Michael for the channel before in Malibu 2020, where he also taught me how to surf. But this time we recorded a FaceTime video together, where I walked in his footsteps as he told me anecdotes from the locations. It was a powerful experience, and he told me it felt good to see that Vietnam had moved on from the war as well. Sadly, the footage was lost during a video transfer when I got home, and all I got is this screen cap from our FaceTime session. It's incredibly frustrating as we planned a lot for this moment, but there's not much you can do but to keep on moving forward. So I flew to Malibu in America to meet with Michael so we could get some of his stories onto the footage I shot at Street Without Joy. So here it is. Yeah, so we're back with Michael Morell in Malibu.
We're here 3 years from your last visit.
Yeah.
And a year from your Hue visit.
Yeah, I was in Hue in Vietnam and near the Street Without Joy where you served.
Yes, it's very, very surreal to have you walking around my old route.
Yeah, it felt surreal to be there. I've seen your photos about it, so it was cool.
Well, we're going to go over the photos later.
Yeah.
At the table. I have all of my Street Without Joy photos here. It was important during the time that I was there because this was I Corps, and that was where the DMZ was, and the Marines were stationed across the DMZ, the McNamara forts, and their main town, Da Nang, was south of us, so they had to use the street without joy to resupply themselves. So it was a choke point, and it was a place to have a war.
Yeah. And you have an Instagram account called Vietnam 365 Days.
I have that account, and I've taken all of these photographs and explained them there.
And this is just a small portion of what you have on your page, because you took photos every day.
I carried a camera in my Claymore bag, and when I saw something that I liked, and put it down.
Yeah.
So you can see these are old Instamatic films, non-focus, plastic lens, but they've held up well for 55 years.
Yeah, they look great. I'm very excited to take a peek.
Right. So I'm a surfer, and here we are in Malibu, and I believe in karma, and here I am in Vietnam on the beach in I Corps, humping in the sand. I was a staff sergeant and then a lieutenant platoon leader. I had 30 people that I was in charge of in the 1st Cavalry. Those are NVA prisoners. We were halfway on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and this is where they dropped wounded people off. I treated prisoners fine. That's a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Scotch that my father sent to me. He would wrap it in a shoebox, wrapped in peanuts, and they could kick that out of a helicopter and it would make it to me. So this guy, he was just really lucky. He decided to give up to us. In our unit, we didn't murder anybody. I poured him my scotch, I got him really drunk, and sent him to the rear. I don't know what happened to him in the rear, but I think he'll remember his day he spent with me. One of my responsibilities was to advise ARVNs and popular forces. So here's a popular force soldier out on the sand dunes. That's flying over the street without joy. Highway 1A would be below us. And this is where we used our helicopters to advantage. We would fly to a rice paddy, air assault in, land, and walk for the day, get picked up, and go to another rice paddy for the next day. That's a group of Vietnamese that are on their way to the market. And my assignment that day was to ambush them, which I didn't ambush them, I delayed them. And it turned out that we had about 50 of them parked on the side of the trail. My Lai was the AO next to us. So following orders the way they did was not the way to do it. Here they are in a village. This area was a free fire zone, which meant you could shoot at anything that moved. But obviously the Vietnamese came back, and they were farming. I mean, they had their food to take care of. So it was just a very, very strange area. We would go in, search their belongings, see if they had ID cards, and generally try to get along with them. That's Jerry Kelly, and we're in a village searching it. Normally it went pretty well because we weren't really rough. We weren't like the Los Angeles police, gangbusters. We tried to get along with these people. That's the sand dunes. Out there as a surfer in the sand dunes. The only bad part about it was the booby traps. I spent 4 months in this area, and then we moved 350 miles south to the jungle of Cambodia, which was fighting NBA, completely different. This is one of my rare combat photos, and that was the trouble with taking combat pictures. It just doesn't look like a combat picture. We were being fired at, waiting to be picked up by our helicopters. And they were firing at us. It would have been much better to be a movie film. These pictures were all for my mother. My father supported this, and the idea was to let her know that I was okay. So I'm maybe the inventor of the selfie. I have more selfies than anybody in Vietnam. Every roll of film, at the end we took pictures of me to make my mother happy.
One thing I was extra happy to find at the Street Without Joy is this old church from 1923 that Michael took a photo of when he was there in 1968. It was not easy to find. It took me and Wu some time of driving back and forth in the area, and we asked locals about it until we finally found it. We can see the top of the church here on Michael's photo. It has been slightly remodeled and other buildings has popped up since this photo was taken over 50 years ago. It felt unreal to walk around it and show it to Michael live via FaceTime. So this is a highlight from my trip. And this was all for this time. I hope you liked the video. Please share it with your friends and I will see you next time.